All right, so we've seen some things that attract us to each other. We've talked a little bit about love, but let's talk about those things that enable it, that build that relationship together. So we can talk about attachment, and I mean clearly this comes out of developmental theories. Attachment, especially to a caretaker, it's powerfully rooted because infants that are attached to a caregiver will be better protected by that caregiver. But there's attachment bonds at all stages of relationships, and it's similar brain areas that look at this. Attachment between infants and caregivers is similar to passionate love. Okay, there are brain areas that are similar to this. We find attachment theory, this notion that parents are biologically prepared to establish links. Infants are prepared to attach to parents. Parents are born ready to attach to infants. In fact, taking a look at this face, we're biologically programmed to love babies. These physical characteristics or features automatically trigger brain reactions in us which draw us to that face. We find Mickey Mouse starting on the left, moving to the right. The artists that drew Mickey Mouse came to realize that the audience would be more attracted and drawn to these features that define a baby-like face. Okay, and so it turns out this is a very true thing. My dog was a Shih Tzu, and Shih Tzus were genetically bred for one specific purpose, and that is to retain baby-like features throughout their entire lifespan. Okay, and lo and behold, Shih Tzus create this attachment feeling even when they're old dogs. One of the classic studies on attachment theory, because Harry Harlow was working in a tradition, in a time when behaviorism dominated. You know, B.F. Skinner reigned supreme in the field of psychology. And so Skinnerians would take this thing called attachment and say, okay, attachment comes from the rewards given. You know, straightforward. So, parent provides food, attachment to parent kind of a thing. And so what Harry Harlow did was he showed, look, he took these baby monkeys and he put them in a cage, and they had two mothers to choose from, right? You want to call them mothers. And one provided all the food. The mother on the left, all food was given through the mother on the left. So the mother on the left should have the most associations with food. The mother on the right provided no food, none, but she was soft. Okay? And so guess what happened? The infant's monkeys attached quite clearly to the cloth mother. And so what happens is, here it is. If the cloth mother isn't around and something scary enters the room, this is the monkey's reaction. Okay? But it's crazy. There's a video on this. Do I have it? This video right there. And in the video, what happens is something scary happens, and the baby monkey flies across the room and grabs a hold of the cloth mother, not the wire mother, goes to the cloth mother to get some comfort. And then what happens is, this is what happens when the cloth mother isn't present. Okay? It's a fascinating video to see. Well, some of the more recent work, especially like Mary Ainsworth, has led to this understanding that there are different styles of attachment. And they talk about secure attachment. I mean, it depends on where you go. I've heard of these 4 styles of attachment. There are others as well. But want to make it clear that based on Erik Erikson's theory of social development, attachment styles form the basis of all other social relationships later in life. Because if you recall in Erik Erikson's social development theory, that the way we navigate the crises or conflicts at a later stage of social development is directly the result of how we handled it at an earlier stage. So these stages in Erikson's theory are not separate from each other, and this is the first one, so it's clearly the basis of all. Well, in the United States, we find that secure attachment is the most common form of attachment. And again, it's beyond the scope of this course, but Mary Ainsworth had put together the strange situations task, where what she'll do is she'll bring in an infant and their mother into a strange room, And then what will happen is that at some point, a couple minutes in, the mother will leave the room. And then a couple minutes after that, the mother will return. And so they want to look at the infant's behavior in, when the mom leaves, and the infant's behavior when the mom comes back. Okay? And so with secure attachment, what basically happens is when mom leaves, the child gets apprehensive, very apprehensive, troubled, very troubled. And when mom arrives, they're clearly happy that mom has arrived, and they'll go to mom, but they're not going to be clingy. Okay, they're not going to freak out when mom leaves. They're not going to be like grabby. And there's some that's indifferent. Some children, mom leaves, they don't care. Mom comes back, they don't care. So there's some indifferent attachment. There's a lot of different attachment styles, but it's always been felt in the literature that secure attachment is the healthiest attachment. But here's a study, cross-cultural study on attachment styles. And what we find is that in the USA, yeah, take a look, in the middle there, by far, secure attachment is the most common form of attachment. And so we are so arrogant as to say, well, because it's the most common, it must be the most healthy. Go to Germany, and it's not the most common. Go to Israel, it's not the most common. You go to these places in different attachment styles. I find it very, very hard to believe that secure is good. Though maybe I will be willing to support a statement that says secure attachment style provides the best basis for social development in an American context. That statement I might agree with. I'd be willing to bet avoidant attachment style leads to the best social beginnings for German children's social development. I'd be willing to bet. Okay, so anyway, we're going to move it on. Equity. Equity is an interesting idea, but all relationships are ultimately economic relationships. Okay, and so in equity is this notion that we believe that what we get is equal to what we put in. And so it doesn't have to be because somebody could bring in prestige to the relationship, but not money. Sweet. So some might bring in money, some might bring in attraction, some might come in hardworking, some might come. So all of these different things in some way are being balanced in our brain, and if we feel that a relationship is equitable, we'll be drawn into the relationship. And in fact, if we view this as inequitable, and I mean, I'd be willing to bet if you talk to a bunch of divorce lawyers that this is pretty much the topic of the conversation at almost every divorce proceeding, okay? That I'm putting in more than I'm receiving. So what might lead to a deeper relationship? Self-disclosure. And I mean, this notion of self-disclosure would really lead to that companionate love form of a relationship. So revealing intimate aspects of ourselves, we trust instead of feeling anxious. And it turns out that the more one partner discloses, it tends to reciprocate, and the other does as well. Okay? And so here's some funky words. The selves of the partners begin to overlap. I become part of you, and you become part of me. All right. Did I tell you this is touchy-feely? What about the other end now? Uh-oh, divorce. So in individualistic countries tend to have higher divorce rates than collectivistic cultures. Tend to make a big tend on that one, because this is a trend that is clearly changing. Okay, and so often what happens is individualists put more pressure on relationships. That is, if it's not satisfying me, I will get out. But collectivistic people from collectivistic countries are actually more worried about, well, what will other people think if divorce happens? All right, and then here, look at this. Narcissists have a higher divorce rate, and that's kind of funny because a narcissist is somebody that thinks very highly of themselves. And so going back here, if you think very, very highly of yourself, then you will believe that the things that you put into the relationship are much more than they are. Okay, so that's kind of a cute one. But anyway, as I'm saying, this relationship is becoming far less true. The individualistic, collectivistic thing is becoming less true by far. But here is an interesting image. I wonder when this one was made. I think it's going to tell me under there. Doesn't even tell me. But anyway, it's a weird graph. But basically, what it's showing is if you go along the y-axis, the lower you go, the more individualistic the nation is. So you take a look at the highest numbers on that scale were Thailand, Mexico, Singapore, Chile, Portugal, all of those places, Asia, Central America. These are the places I had told you that were high in collectivism. You come down to the individualistic countries, Australia, United Kingdom, New Zealand, Canada, US, okay? And you find that the more individualistic a country is, the higher their divorce rate is. It's a pretty good correlation there. So marriages, though, people are more likely to stay married if they married after age 20. I think, though, nowadays we need to probably, this is probably an older number, but, it's a good one to work with. People are much more likely to stay married if they both grew up in stable two-parent homes as like a model, right? People are more likely to stay married if they dated for a long time before marriage. Well-educated people are more likely to stay married, and similarly educated people. Okay, birds of a feather flock together. Birds of a feather stay together. Okay, obviously, stable income is a very, very key component to marriage. Small towns and farms are more likely to remain married than big cities, right? Okay, and cohabitation and pregnancy before marriage actually predict marriages that won't last. Okay, and again, religious, they're similar in age, faith, education, religion, etc. Birds of a feather stick together. Huh? And so divorce is not just like a one-time deal. It's a process. It's a gradual thing. It's very emotional, and yes, lawyers take advantage of the fact that we're at our most emotionally vulnerable with a lot of guilt. Okay? Percent very happy with I don't know what that is. Okay, but it's a process. All right, so we'll stop with that one, and I can't remember the next topic. I think is helping. I'm not positive. I think it's helping, and so another hopefully, although helping involves not helping too. So, all right, we'll see you with that one next time.